just ran in the door, basically. Well, today is our last Q&A. Julia says, hi everyone, I missed last night. Sorry, but I had a quick catch up this afternoon. Good. And let me, where is it? Yeah, here it is. I'll just post the link to our contact and connection course. We'll talk about that later too. Let me do that on as well. Yeah, so same drill, I guess, as the last couple of days. So Catherine will be here for a little bit until she gets tired or
like keel over
or hungry. And then, so if you have Feldenkrais questions, let's do that first. I guess we can look at a couple of videos.
Yes, there was, I think, Agneta Bond
only got
posted something.
Oops, hold on a second. This happened again to me. Okay, so forgot to start playing something. Okay, so
she's posted it in the group, which is what I recommended she do. So I know there's one from Agneta.
Yeah, good. Yeah, I should just
Agneta.
Link and Christiana. Hold on a second here. Christiana was saying to clear my building blocks is cantering 30 minutes long on circle, schooling only the condition and the pushing leg, transition and corners will help flexing it. Well, cantering just on a circle or whole school, that just sort of conditions the horseman. And the danger is that they get crooked and gradually fall more on the forehand and get stiffer if you just canter long distances without doing anything else, right? With transitions, you can rebalance, you can straighten, corners help to flex the inside hind. They also help to straighten the horse. So it depends very much. I always have to look at the overall quality of the canter and all three gaits really in everything you do, right? And the goal is always to improve the quality of the gait, and then as long as the quality improves, you're probably doing the right thing, right? And you can continue doing what you're doing. But if you feel like the quality of the gait is deteriorating in some way, then you have to change what you're doing, right? So, and sometimes, going straight and forward is good, and the horses need that, because if you do too many corners and too many lateral movements, the horses can get behind the aids too, and then they stop pushing maybe. So, but if you go straight and forward for too long, then the horses can get very stiff and inflexible, right? So you always have to find the right blend of all the different possibilities for your horse. So do you want to do the video first?
Yeah, we could do that, couldn't we?
Do that. Let me click on it. Okay. Let me share that. And okay. Always takes a minute. I have to click a couple of things here before it actually goes there. To turn the sound off. Okay. That's interesting. Let me look at that again, because that was kind of unusual what the horse was doing. Yeah? Creative use of the neck on the horse's part.
Oh,
okay, so touching her with the whip on.
Agneta is, sorry, I hope I got your pronunciation roughly right. This is the video from this morning. Warts and all, I've been riding half-heartedly for a month as my husband is unwell in hospital. Okay. Okay, so this is how it is right now, which is always good to
Yeah. If you need to drive the inside hind leg here, I would take the whip into my inside hand, because riding with the whip, with the reins in the inside hand, whip on the outside, and then reaching across, that is a little disruptive here. I think that's why the horse is twisting the neck and so on. I think you'd be more effective having the whip in the inside hand and just keeping one rein in each hand. I think that would be more effective at this point. And you see you're posting on the quote unquote wrong diagonal, which can help. It can sometimes help to balance the horse. If they lean on the inside shoulder, then it helps to sit down when the outside hind and inside front are on the ground, as long as it's a conscious decision, right? In lessons, I always ask people if they mean to do that, right? And if that's on purpose, then it's okay. But some people, just post on the same diagonal, regardless of which way they're going. And then if it's not a conscious decision, then it may not be such a good idea, right? But you can see how it seems to help the horse, right? The balance is getting better. The posture is getting a little steadier. As the outside hind starts to settle in and take the weight a little better, the bend gets better, the head and neck position gets steadier, and so on. Yeah, and so here she's posting on the wrong diagonal too. So there must be a method to it. It must be intentional, and I think
is it for the enlarging? Do you think? Because you've mentioned that.
Yeah, that could help exactly. Here, that's better right here. So you see how the horse is now getting rounder. So the unsteadiness of the head and neck seems like it's coming from the outside hind leg not flexing enough, not supporting the weight enough in those moments. And then when the outside hind leg accepts the weight and lets it go through and flexes more, everything gets round and steady, right? So it seems like Agneta is doing the right thing, and she's on the right path for that.
It's interesting how much she's improved, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And it seems like this is all about connecting the outside hind to the weight and the ground. Enlarging helps with that, and I would probably do. See there, the outside hind refuses again. I would probably do more transitions, to be honest, into the outside hind. Do down transitions into the outside hind, and you can do a little stirrup stepping into the outside, front, rear, things like that. Tempo is a tad quick. I would ride that a tiny bit slower. What you can do is enlarge and then do the down transition into the outside hind. Instead of enlarge, slow down, it becomes enlarge, half hold, walk, I would also experiment with asking the croup to yield to the inside a few strides, just to bring that outside hind more underneath me, then bring the croup back out to the first track, and then do the down transition into the trot. And you can do this, the other way around. Do the croup in, croup out.
What about Mr. Bean?
Sorry,
have you
I have to find that.
No more, Mr. Bean?
Find the right thing. Hold on a second here. That's so annoying when it switches to another, to another video. Okay, there we go. So now I can share the screen again. Yeah, so in the walk, you can do the same thing. Croup in, croup out, half hold into the outside hind, trot, right? That sort of thing. And in the trot, croup in, croup out, and walk into the outside hind. So because it seems like it helps the horse if you target the outside hind, if you flex the outside hind. You can do then, as a counter experiment, you could do exercises where you ride diamonds or squares or rectangles, and then do transitions from trot to walk into the inside hind leg, right? Or walk halt transitions into the inside hind leg, just to compare, right? It's like, what works better, connecting the outside hind or connecting the inside hind? Or do I need a little bit of both? Because it could be too that, and it helps to connect the outside hind, but it also helps to connect the inside hind. So you may have to do a mixture of both, right? So I would research that, but just from the 3 minutes here, it's pretty obvious that the outside hind leg doesn't like to connect, doesn't like to flex, and when you get it connected, the horse starts to become round and bend and come on the bit and so on.
Agneta is saying her mare is in heat, which is not making things better. Right. It's the right hind that is weak, and that's the reason she keeps her whip in the right hand.
Yeah. You can change it when you change direction, so that you keep it in the inside hand. Or if you feel like here you need to drive the inside hind, just flip it over and then drive with the whip in the inside hand. And otherwise, in terms of the seat, I mean, it's not bad. Knees come up a little when you sit down, right? So if you can let the weight flow more through, your thighs and knees as you sit down, maybe lift your toes, let your heel sink back and down, then the leg position becomes a little bit more stretched and quiet. But otherwise, it's not bad at all.
Yeah, I think it's just a little bit of which everybody has. There's just a little bit of holding around the hip joints, I think.
Right.
That's what it looks like to me, which is, pretty much where all of us are.
Right.
And so there isn't quite that sort of sense when the hip joints are really free. In other words, the heads of the feet, the hip sockets are sort of moving around the heads of the femurs, and you get that real feeling of the ball and socket joint. It just has a smoother, more gliding motion. That's all I can say. So it's a little bit sticky, particularly on the up, I think.
Yeah. And
that just comes with sensory awareness. I think most of us don't really feel that really clear sense of the socket and how the head of the femur is in the socket.
And when the knee comes up, it tends to push the pelvis a little back towards the cantle. So sometimes watching it in motion, I had the feeling that Agneta sits down a little, far back, and then there's a bit of a roundness to the spine, right?
Yeah, but I think that might be her jacket, actually.
Could be,
it's a puffer jacket, and they often make you look like that. Yeah, it is hard to tell.
Yeah, but if you don't stick your feet quite as far into the stirrups, so your ankle has more flexibility, right? Then and you let your knees slide down, then it will pull your pelvis forward and down into the saddle, and then also the upper body position will then be straighter, or like here is a little bit too much forward inclination of the upper body, right? And that could come a little bit from the knees coming up, right? And pelvis sliding back that can tip the shoulders forward, that sort of thing, right?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a sense of the whole spine being a little bit flexed, so that your tailbone is a bit under, which pulls your sternum down. It rounds your whole spine, and that inevitably will bring your knees up, because actually it's a pattern of flexion through your whole body.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I'm seeing too. And it's not dramatic. It's just little things, right? But it's often the way it is. It's like when you look at somebody, it's not like there is one big dramatic thing that you have to change, like pushing one button, everything's perfect. It's more like tweaking 10 little knobs, right? In different places, there's like little adjustments you can make, and then they add up, and then you have a completely different picture if you just make small adjustments in 3 or 4 places, right? That's the way it usually goes in writing. Yeah.
I mean, I always think that if you can get your hands on a plastic skeleton and literally play around with moving the pelvis around the heads of the femurs, you get a much clearer sense in yourself of what's possible in terms of movement. So I don't know, see if you can find some helpful person who has a skeleton stored away in their cupboard.
But a real one.
Well, do you know, one of my trainers, she has a lot of real bones, and the difference is phenomenal. It's so good to see them, because the way the bones glide against each other and the surfaces, you really see what's possible in terms of movement in a very different way.
Yeah, I'm sure.
It's really good. The foot particularly is incredible. She's got a human foot. I don't know where she got them from.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering.
I don't know.
Where do you legally get human bones?
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe it's better if you don't know. So let me just see here. Agneta says, my mirrors. Oh, yeah, okay, good. So you have read. Okay, yeah, and she said my decision the posting Trot, and it's okay. There's nothing wrong with it, right? It's nothing wrong with posting on the wrong diagonal. As long as it's a conscious decision, it's always fine. It's like one of my old teachers used to say, you can do whatever you want, but you better be able to explain to me why you're doing it.
Yeah. If you know what you're doing, you can do what you want. That's the
exactly.
Feldenkrais.
Exactly. And he was fine with us violating rules too. It's like, but you have to have a good reason for doing that, right? So yeah. So then here Sarah says, hello, me again. When I was writing today, I had the Feldenkrais lesson in my mind in the way I sit with more weight on my right seat bone. I struggle with getting inside bend on the right rein as my right leg gets stuck. I experimented with trying to straighten my pelvis and found I can push Kitty into the outside rein using my right inner groin muscle. Yeah, she immediately became straighter and round. Is it okay to use this muscle in this way? She hates me using my calf too much and braces against it. Well, if it makes the horse better, then it's probably the right.
That sounds like she's probably nudging with the knee,
exactly,
because when you contract with the inner thigh muscle, it'll bring your knee more against your horse, and that will nudge the shoulders over.
Or the thigh, exactly. And some horses really don't like lower legs, especially if they grip or pinch or or kick. But they're usually okay with thighs and knees. Touch the rib cage in a different place higher up. And if you do this like rhythmically, like let your pelvis swing out, then you almost automatically give a little impulse with your thigh and knee on the inside. And I use that too. I use my inner thigh muscles a lot, and and there are so many of them, right? So you can use different parts of your thigh, and you can use your knee, and it's actually a quite differentiated way of communicating with a horse, right? There's lots of options in the thighs, and if you try to let that thigh and knee aid begin with your pelvis by accentuating a movement, especially pelvis swinging out with the rib cage, then it's very logical for the horse what you're trying to say, right? It's like like in Feldenkrais, one bone moves the next one, so to speak, or and it just flows organically from the pelvis down into the leg, and then it makes sense to the horse. There's no contradiction between different body parts, and then they usually accept that pretty well. Whereas I guess if you think of driving with your calf, there might also be a contradiction between your calf and pelvis or torso, and like weight leaning to the inside and the inside leg telling the horse go out, right? And the weight tells the horse come in, and the leg tells the horse go out, and then the horse is confused and doesn't know who's right, or who am I supposed to obey, so to speak. One boss says one thing, another boss says another thing, right? And then that creates conflicts for the horses. And Christiane was saying that has not brought us forward, so it was not the right method in the past. So I guess that was about the cantering for long periods of time. I mean, there's a time and a place sometimes where you feel like, I have to canter for a little bit longer. But then I would also do patterns, not just canter straight, but I would do voltas and half passes and things like that. Especially when you're practicing or training for competition, right, at the upper levels, and you have these long canter tours where you have to do flying changes and pirouettes and half passes and stuff that requires a lot of stamina. So there, at some point it's helpful to stay in the canter a little bit longer so the horse doesn't expire in the canter tour in your test. So but still do it intelligently in such a way that the quality of the canter improves, or at least stays at the level where it was in the canter depart, that it doesn't gradually deteriorate, and then you wouldn't do yourself any favors, right, if you just canter for cantering's sake and then everything gets worse. So okay, let me see, there were some Q&As too. Jane says, hi, thanks so much for the challenge. I've learned so much, and Merlot really responded well to elbow connection. I've got in a muddle with when the driving aid should be applied, as it tends to slow down. Is it when the inside hind is on the ground before it goes vertical, inside or outside hind? So the driving aid is applied when the inside hind leg lifts up. If the horse is too slow in his hind legs, then you may have to drive a little bit before he picks it up, so he picks it up earlier, right? But normally you would pick it up, you drive when the hind leg is about to lift off, or when it's starting to lift off. because the calf aid triggers the contraction of the belly muscles. The belly muscles pull the hind leg up and forward, right? And the half hold is applied when the outside hind leg is on the ground, right? Because you want to flex the outside hind leg more. And of course, inside hind up, outside hind down, it's kind of the same movement in the footfall sequence. So it's why it's rhythmically easy, right? You drive 2 strides, you half fall 2 strides in the same moment of the footfall sequence. And the driving leg talks to the inside hind and the half fall talks to the outside hind. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Should we look at another video?
Yeah, we could. Let me see. We could use Julia here next. The chat box. Just that a few people have commented on my video, made some suggestions, but I'd still love it if you would have a look. A quick answer in the group would be fine. If there isn't time in the Q&A. Oops. Hold on a second here. Okay, Julia Hicks, exactly. So she's saying, still trying to get the flexion of hind leg joints. How will I know when it happens? Should I feel her quarters get lower? Here's a little video when I think she's bringing the hind legs under her, but not flexing them. Do you agree? This was part of a dressage test I wrote as a guinea pig for a demonstration. So let me share that. Oops. I'll just watch it a little bit to get an impression. My first impression was that the tempo was pretty quick.
It's fast.
And when the tempo is too quick, the horse doesn't have time to really go through all the parts of the stride, like reaching forward, touching down, flexing, pushing. The first thing that gets dropped is the flexion of the hind leg, right? They just reach forward, touch down, push when they're in a hurry. So if you slow down the tempo, you'll be able to create more flexion. Here it's better somehow. It seems like it's slowed down a little bit. Here it looks like the inside hind leg is not flexing very much. That's why the horse is not very round. Let me see. I'm going to get to the point where we can see that. Yeah, see when you freeze right at the moment where the hind leg touches down, the inside hind is not very far under the body. It basically touches down in the vertical or minimally in front of the vertical. And the hind leg can only flex when it's on the ground in front of the vertical. It's just sort of the physics of it, right? Ideally, the inside hind should touch down under your inside heel, right? So somewhere here. And then in that moment, when it touches down, you can sit on it, flex it, half hold, whatever you want to do, step into the stirrup on that side to maybe make the hind leg linger a little bit, like draw this moment in time out a little bit. And that creates more flexion of the hip and stifle and hock and so on. Here it looks better actually. There it's closer, not quite under the center of gravity, but closer at least. The croup is up a little bit here, right? And the withers are down a little bit. Here in this moment, you see that pretty clearly, right? So when the hind legs flex more, then the croup will be level with the withers. And the neck will be round, the nose will be closer to the vertical. So, yeah, and see here, as soon as it touches down, it's just a split second and the hind leg is already behind the vertical again. So if you can engage the hind leg so it reaches farther under the body and then make it linger on the ground just a little bit longer once it touches down, then you create more flexion of the hind legs, you create a stretch of the top line essentially, right, and a rounder outline. Of course, in a dressage test, you can't change the pattern, right? If you feel like my horse needs a volte here, you can't do that in a test, right? or if you feel like I would really need to stop my horse and do a full pass left and right, and I can't do that in a test. So you have to do what you can with what's allowed, right, or what's in the test. But in tests, you can always try to use corners to maximize, balance and straightness and suppleness and so on. So watching it, I keep looking at that left hind leg. That's the one that seems to be a little bit, less flexible and seems to move a little differently than the right hind leg. A lot of horses have two hind legs that move differently, right? Where one seems faster, one seems slower, or one seems to touch down a little harder. The right here seems to touch down a little bit more softly, and the left seems to touch down a little bit harder. It seems more jarring the way it impacts the ground. Seat is not bad. I mean, there could be a little bit more stretch in the sense that the heels could aim more for the hind feet of the horse, so that there's more of a stability there, but otherwise the form of the seat is pretty good, and seems like the connection here from the back to the elbow seems pretty good too. What do you think, Catherine? You have to unmute yourself.
Yeah, because I was talking to Jean-Marc. Every now and then, and I just noticed this on quite a few people's videos, what seems to happen is, and because I think it's interesting for everybody, is that if I kind of show you side on, is that there's a sense a little bit that, when you come up, the hip joints come up and then people's shoulders just go a bit behind the hip joints. So you end up the hips coming forward and the shoulders going back. It's only every now and then with you, Julia. It's really not something that you do that much, but just think it's worth mentioning that as much as your hip joints come forward, your sternum needs to come forward. Oops. Because otherwise you'll end up with that kind of actually putting yourself a little bit out of balance. I think that's what happens when the feet come forward, is that people have brought their hips forward, but the shoulders are going, and sometimes it's so minimal that you can barely see it. But I think it does make a difference, that sense that the sternum is coming forward and up, the sacrum behind is coming forward and up, everything is coming forward and up. And that it's just a slightly more refined way of balancing yourself. Yeah. I think people get very intent on trying to keep themselves upright, but actually if you think, you've got to keep up with the momentum of travel,
you have to go
the direction of travel. Exactly. So you've got to go forward and up as much as you want your horse to.
Right. And if the lower legs come off in the rising trot when you get up, it's usually a sign that the rider is standing in the stirrup or pushing up off the stirrup, right? And if you can try to leave your lower legs alone, basically, and rise from your knees, support yourself with your knees, keep your lower legs in the same place where they are when you're sitting the trot, so that ideally, if somebody films just your lower legs, they couldn't tell whether you're posting or sitting. That was always sort of my goal. I want my lower legs to be separate, uninvolved, just, be where they always are, and then do all the movement from the knee up, right? And that helps, that makes the seat more stable, and it's a different support for the body, right? So you don't support yourself with your stirrups, and you're not pushing into the stirrups to get up, but you're just resting with your weight on the inside of your knees, and you let the horse lift you up, which also means maybe then you'll rise a little less high, right? A lot of people put too much effort into the rising trot and they come out of the saddle too much.
But that is something that's taught a lot as well. So it seems to be something that some trainers really like you to do that. And in fact, I think there's some idea that your pelvis can be like a sort of slingshot in a rising trot to get more hind end engagement. And that, I don't know, I guess it's one of those things where
it's true. I mean, it leads the students to work too hard. So if you think of using the absolute minimum of effort to get out of the saddle, only lift as much as the horse lifts you, and just support yourself passively so that you're not using any strength coming up, and you may use a little bit of muscle to land softly, right? So you're not just falling back onto the horse's back, right? So you don't use any muscle effort coming up, and you just use as much muscle as necessary so that you land softly, right? Like a feather, basically. And then it becomes very economical, to post, and it becomes very energy efficient. Whereas if you push yourself out of the saddle, it becomes pretty tiring, actually. Oops. Oh, yeah.
There you see the shoulders going behind there. Can you see?
Right.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Just those 3 steps. And there, because the shoulders are behind, there's no chance that you can rise up over the knees.
Right. Yeah, there is a danger of getting behind the motion and then falling back into the horse's back.
So it's, and I think so. Therefore, if the if that's the thigh, if that is coming up over the knees like that, and your pelvis is coming up over the knees, that will carry your whole spine forward. And
if you incline your upper body a little forward, you can
that's what I think. I think you need to be a little inclined forward.
Right. And at Neindorf's Institute, people would lean almost 45 degrees in front of the vertical. That was a little excessive, but it actually allows you to sit very gently, very softly. I used to do that too, and then after I moved away from there and started to ride with people from the Spanish riding school, they didn't like it. So I changed that again. So now I'm staying somewhere between vertical and the 45 degrees. I go a little forward, but not that much, right?
Funny enough, I watched Philip Carl doing Rising Trot a few weeks ago, and he's definitely inclined forward, and he sits super softly as a result.
Right, exactly.
But it's not like massive; it's just enough. And if you rise from a chair, if you keep yourself straight upwards, and then try to lower yourself down into the chair without crashing, it's really, really hard. The amount of effort you need in your quads is ridiculous.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, maybe you could try it on a bar stool. How much inclination of your body do you need forward to be able to sit with your sitting bones so softly that you barely touch, and then you can come up again, and you've got that reversibility where at any moment you could stop, go away, come back down, touch your sitting bones. I think it's it's a difficult movement, actually, Rising Trot.
It is, I know.
And it's going to be different according to your body shape as well. I've got long legs and a relatively short spine, and I have to be slightly more inclined forward than some people might be, because I've got long femurs, so the relationship between my femurs and my lower legs is a bit weird. So if I want to be really in balance, that's what I have to do.
Right. Yeah, interesting. So let me see, is there a comment about that? Just scanning. Julia said, thank you both. That's about what I thought about the way she's going. So confirms what I thought. I need to work on how to play with imagining longer femurs today. And I think that helped with keeping my feet back. I know if I rise too much, because the saddle is quite small and I go over the front of it. Yeah, that can happen. Julia says I have long legs and short upper body too. Well, it's an advantage.
Yeah, it's got lots of advantages, I think. So people tell me who haven't got that. But there's more to go wrong as well. The longer your legs are, the more can go wrong because your levers are so long. Jackie, does that answer your question? You said go through how the upper body can affect the feet, and send them forward. Or is it the feet that push forward, then the upper body goes back? It's both, isn't it? It could come from one end or the other. But I always think things generally come from the base of support, actually. Well, maybe not. I don't know. It's both.
Julia says it's less obvious that I'm tall on a small horse than it would be if my body was long. Yeah, it's true. He says, yes, when you stood up and demonstrated, you mentioned the feed forward. I'm finding the water ski chair is coming back, and I'd like to know what part of me is generating it.
Because you said, I think you said yesterday, Jackie, that Angel is, he's getting more powerful. So it may be that that's why you're getting a bit behind. Yeah, that as he's got more powered up, you have to slightly change what you were doing. I don't know. That's Thomas's area, really.
I'm getting behind the motion.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Pushing more, going forward more. Yeah, there's more power. There's more movement also to deal with, right? That you have to sort of digest in your body. When the horses power up, so to speak, they're not. On some level, it gets more difficult, right? Because there is more movement, there is more energy, and you have to manage that somehow, right? And it could be that it changes your balance or it changes the seat. I mean, I always find that when I ride horses for a while, my seat has to change at some point. Like I need to sit a certain way in the beginning, and then once they're stronger and more trained, then I need to sit differently, because the old seat would then interfere with them, and initially, maybe I have to sit very lightly and be very careful, and then at some point I might have to sit into the horse more and keep my upper body in a different place and so on. So it's interesting, right?
I find it helpful in rising trot to think of the back of the hip joints coming forward and up, because then you're getting that the power for these movements is from the muscles in the back. The muscles more on the front of the body are you're trying to sort of lengthen them down. And the other thing I find helpful is to find the top of the sternum and to think of that continuously moving forward and up. Yeah. Bit like when you watch sprinters, they break the tape with this part of their chest.
Let me see here. I was going back up just to see that I don't skip anything. So Max Ashworth was saying, hi all, I rode today in this wind. Alfie was super. We worked on a small circle halt just out things on reins, and he halted, then halt and asked for one hind step under. He had no idea, but was good on the left rein. I noticed my pelvis was crooked on the right as a difficult side. Thumb press on the rein. Okay. And Agneta was saying, since October, I've been riding with the Ritter course. They're so good. This is a video from this morning. What's now clicked? So that was that. And Katarina Hall said,
Katarina posted a video in the Facebook group today. So I think it's on a Google Doc thing. So
okay, we can look at that.
Have a look at that, couldn't we?
Yeah, just make sure if there's anything else. Yeah, Sarah had said, yes, you're right. She hates any grip with my calf or knee, but accepted the groin muscle straight away. Okay, I think using my groin also shifted my weight. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's all connected. So that was that conversation we had a minute ago. And Elena wants to know how to think about using the thigh. Usually when I use my upper leg, my lower leg flings off the horse. So how to keep the lower leg on its place when using
That's understanding the movement pattern. Because you can bring your knee in and take your lower leg out in a sort of, that kind of movement, but you can also bring your knee in and bring your whole leg in. So it is literally like, do you know that dance, the Charleston? This is dance from the 20s where your heels flick out and your knees turn in. That's the pattern that you're talking about. But you can also bring your knee in just more directly onto the side without twisting your foot out, your heel out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you could use
different pattern. That's all.
Yeah, I guess you could use your hip joint as a hinge without rotating,
right.
you can rotate and not
exactly.
that sort of thing.
It's just adduction or internal rotation. In fact, that's the
in any combination. Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And as you use your upper thigh or lower thigh or whatever, you may also have to flex or extend your knee joints and your ankle a little bit, right?
I think also, Thomas, it's the part of your knee that you touch on. So if you twist and then you're going to bring this part of your knee on, whereas if you bring it in, you're going to bring more that. So that might help to have a sort of reference. If that's happening, then your foot's going to fling out. But if that's happening, it'll be a different part that touches.
Yeah. Yes, there's so many movement possibilities in the hips and thighs and lower
Exactly.
leg.
Yeah.
There's so much differentiation there.
So much differentiation and connection, and it's just that makes it complicated.
Yeah.
But also gives you lots of possibilities. So that's
exactly. Yeah. Unfortunately, it doesn't get taught usually. A lot of trainers tell their students never to do anything with their thighs, but silly because it's such a large area, right? I mean, it's the largest area that we have in touch with a horse, so. And there's so many muscles on the inside of the thigh. There's so much you can feel and so much you can move and so on. And lots to experiment with, really. Jane says, thank you. That makes complete sense. No idea why I was getting in a model when you make it sound so simple. I think that was the timing of the A. Sarah was saying, would you do rising trot without stirrups to practice rising without using the stirrups? I think that tends to lead to gripping.
I think so. I've never managed to do it without. I don't. If someone else has, good for you. That's all I can say.
To be honest, I think that it used to be done just to torture the students. You know, for the teachers to have fun. Because I mean, we had to do it sometimes too with when I was a teenager or whatever. I never felt like it really helped. I mean, it made me tired. And made your muscles sore, but I didn't feel like I was sitting any better afterwards. Or, for me, it just led to gripping. So and that diminishes the flexibility in your legs and hips. So I'm not a fan. Michelle King says, if you rise just from your knees, how do you prevent the knees gripping and becoming tight against the horse? She said, I'm told to open my knees as I tend to grip. Takes so long to retrain the body. Well, you don't have to clamp your knees on. You just rest. The horse's rib cage is shaped like this, right? And if you just rest with your thighs and knees, and then as you come up, you just keep contact with the inside of your knee and support yourself and come up. And as you sit back down, you could release your knees even a little bit. I mean, I used to do that for a while in order to get my legs longer, right? I would think of opening both knees and thighs as I came down, with the idea of letting my knees slide down. Like my goal was every sit down, I want to have my knees 1 centimeter lower, right? Let my knees slide down. Of course, if you grip, you can't, right? Then it pops you out of the saddle. But if you open ever so slightly when you sit down, then gravity will pull you deeper into the saddle, and then you rest on your knees as you come up. So it's this little rest and then release, and rest and release, and that prevents you from clamping your legs on and gripping.
Well, yes, but and also, Thomas, is that when you talk about rising from the knees, it's not like you could chop your lower legs off,
right?
And your lower legs are actually active. In that there's no way that your lower legs aren't doing something and your feet doing something. So when you rise up over your knees, what you may feel is that this sense of your heels sort of almost reaching, as you sometimes say, towards the hind legs. And that counterbalances the weight of the pelvis coming forward and up over the knees, because almost like you were starting a treadmill. If you had no electricity, you had to start a treadmill with your feet. Your feet would be pushing the treadmill backwards, and that brings the knee. That can help with that image, because if you don't think your feet are doing something, then that you're not going to be able to get that knee thing without squeezing, I think, without gripping.
It's a backward downward kind of tendency.
Exactly.
Because,
it's backward downward. Exactly. But I find the treadmill thing really helpful. Like I'm pushing a treadmill backwards.
That's true. I mean, when I was young, and I struggled with it, in the rising trot, my lower legs would come off and forward going up, and then they would come on maybe a little back as I sat down. And so I thought, well, how can I avoid all this movement with my lower leg? And then this thinking of just rising from the knees and keeping my lower legs kind of back and down, like flowing, stretching back and down, that helped. But it's if you slightly actively move your lower leg back and down, that'll probably help. Just don't take your lower leg off and don't push it forward. Don't push yourself off of the stirrups as you go up, because that leads to falling down essentially, right? And it's very hard to control the landing if you take your lower leg off and push them forward when you go up. Then you're very quickly behind the movement and you fall back into the back. And then rising trot isn't not comfortable for the horse. It's not any kinder to the back than sitting the trot, right? So rising trot is only better for the back if you do it right, if you can control the landing, and if you land softly. And I mean, I've seen over the years in clinics, I've seen a lot of people whose horses appeared a little lame in the rising trot because the horses were sensitive in their backs and the riders came down just a little too hard or with just a little too much weight on the seat bones or slightly behind. So they would have a braking effect on the grounded hind leg that they would sit down on, right? And then when I see that, it's like, oh, is that horse sound? Then I ask them to change direction, and oh, he does it in the other direction. So he's sound. It's the posting technique that needs to change, right? Because if the horse was lame, it would be the same hind leg that's lame, regardless of whether you're going left or right. But if it's always the inside hind that looks a little bit lame in the rising trot, then most likely it's the rider sitting down too hard or too fast or with too much weight on the seat bones, and the horse is just a little sensitive in their back. Yeah. Heather Parnham Wilson says, thank you for talking about the rising trot. This is something I find I'm rather untidy in, and I didn't know how to sort this. Now I have so many ideas.
It's really difficult, I think. I think it's a very difficult movement.
Yeah, it is. It is not so easy to do well, right? And, okay, let's. Bibet Gorman Connell says, I've been taught to think of kneeling in the saddle and imagine using the thighs and pelvis like a windscreen wiper in the rising trot. I found those images very helpful. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess
it's this.
Yeah.
That's the femur.
Yeah.
The pelvis coming forward. I think, lots of people like that one.
Yeah, the treadmill. Sarah says, love the treadmill thing. Yeah, that's a good image. I never would have thought of that, but yeah. Good.
Do you want to look at one more video, Thomas?
Yes.
There's
can go up. We had, what was it, Katrina Hall, exactly.
There's Alina is in the Q&A, and Katarina Hall. Katarina Hall was somewhere up here.
Yeah, I have just the Katarina Hall video right here. Share the screen. Let's see if it will play for me. Guess I can make this bigger.
I think this was in a lesson. That's what I remember.
It looks like.
Yeah, exactly. Which always makes it a bit tough.
Yeah, exactly.
I think Katarina's in the red jersey.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking. Exactly. So let's just watch for a second here. And, yeah, lessons are tough. Lesson horses are usually tough too. Yeah.
Very nice balance.
So.
Actually, that's a really nice example of a little bit of forward incline.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it really. Can you see how much it helps soften the movement? It's really, particularly when she came around.
Yeah. So it's mostly canter. Start from the beginning, right? The cantering with that horse is not that easy, probably, because of his balance. I mean, luckily he canters relatively slowly, right? But he's a little strung out, of course, right? The nose is poking out in front and the hind legs are a little out behind, so he doesn't lift the withers very much, right? And it's difficult to just canter from a trot, from a working trot on a circle, right? Because there you don't have much help to get the horse into a straight and uphill kind of canter. It would be easier if you could prepare the horse with an exercise that positions him so that he canters uphill, and then you have a better chance of getting the horse a little rounder and so on. And then once you're in the canter, you feel that there's a forward-backward motion in the horse's back that is transmitted to the seat, and there's an up and down motion, right? And when the horse is on the forehand, then the forward-backward motion is dominant, right? And the up and down motion is relatively small. So now you can try and change that. If you look at, let me see if here, the canter stride begins. Let me see if I can get that. Okay, here, when the outside hind leg lands after the suspension phase, right? That's where the horse lifts the withers, and ideally we would like the withers to come above the top of the croup. When the horse is on the forehand, then the croup will stay higher than the withers or level with the withers. And it's something that you can't change very quickly, right? It's not like you with a lesson horse, you can do this within your lesson. It's something that takes, months to fix, when you can ride the horse yourself, basically, without anybody else messing it up. But you can support the horse, right? You can try and accentuate that upward movement. And again, you will need that stretched leg back and down as an anchor, as a support base. And when the withers come up, you could try to go up semi-actively. Instead of just letting the horse lift you, you could actively move your pelvis up a little bit too, and try and linger at the highest point a split second longer than the horse would stay there, right? And you can step a little bit into the outside stirrup. You can give a little half hold on the outside rein, and then the next split second, the second beat begins, right? The outside hind is still on the ground. Now the forehand lowers and the main diagonal touches down. That's when the horse starts to push forward, and it starts to move your pelvis forward in the saddle too. And that forward feeling continues through the third beat, right? When the inside front is on the ground. And when the horse is very much on the forehand, then you feel this forward-backward motion in your pelvis a lot, and it can give you whiplash almost, right? It's like your pelvis gets flung forward, and then the upper body often gets behind the vertical in that moment, right? And if you can change the ratio of forward to up, right, the horse will maybe pull you forward significantly, right, in your pelvis, and then the lift is relatively small. If you could resist against that forward motion a little bit, and think of cutting the forward motion short and adding that forward motion you're cutting off, add that to the upward motion. So instead of far forward and a little bit up, go a little bit forward and high up with your pelvis. Then that requires a certain engagement of your back muscles and abs, right? So you're not a sort of a victim of the horse's motion, but you're in control. You're changing the direction of the motion. Right? You'll need your knees as support in the up phase, very similar to the rising trot, actually. And maybe every other stride or so, try to linger at the highest point, and then don't go all the way to the bitter end with your pelvis when the horse pulls it forward, but try to reshape the canter stride more and more into a vertical direction. Also, when the horse pulls your pelvis forward, that pelvic motion gets transmitted to the legs, and then the lower legs tend to swing forward. Inside leg especially tends to swing forward. In that moment, it helps to reach back and down. You can even open your thigh for a split second and try to step on the horse's inside hind foot with your inside heel. So the horse pulls your lower leg or your entire leg forward, you push it back and down, and then the compromise it stays where it was, right? So it visually, it doesn't move much at all, right? Because you're reaching back and down every time your seat gets pulled forward. And that allows you to change the balance of the horse in the canter. Whereas otherwise, if you just follow that movement that the horse puts into your pelvis, you can actually end up pushing the horse more and more onto the forehand, more and more out of balance, right? Then it becomes this sort of feedback loop that the horse makes you do it, and then you push the horse a little bit more out of balance every stride. And cantering well is actually surprisingly difficult. You don't see a lot of riders who canter well or have a good seat in the canter. But you can try to work on stretching the legs back and down, and then changing the forward motion into an upward motion. And I wouldn't do this necessarily every stride, because it tends to get hectic, right? If you try to do that every single stride, but you can do it 2 strides in a row and then be passive for 1 or 2, or do it every other stride or every third stride. That's typically what I do too. And when you feel the withers of the horse lifting higher as you rise up, then the canter tempo will tend to get slower. And when it's slower, it's easier to influence. Although, luckily this horse has a fairly calm canter, not too quick. So there is time for you to get the timing right and to influence the different parts of the stride. And, you could connect your elbows a little bit more to the torso by engaging maybe your back muscles a little bit more, so the horse doesn't pull your elbows away from you so much. But of course, if the hind legs don't flex much, there will be kind of a jarring impact on the ground, which then also results in the horse pushing down into the rein and trying to take it a little bit away from you. But you can try and resist against that with your back muscles. It's something we talked about yesterday, right? That you resist the rein or the horse pushing into the rein with your back muscles, with your torso, not with the arm muscles. But yeah, not so easy. Not an easy thing to do. Takes a lot of practice.
And particularly in a riding school situation, it's
exactly
it's so difficult. But you can have you can feel. I think the thing about going to riding schools, you can feel all those things, and then maybe you can imagine how you could make them different if you could ride the horse more.
Right, exactly.
Mm.
All right, yeah, canter is its own chapter, right? It's its own. That's why in the old training manuals, the canter always formed a separate chapter. They would discuss all the, seat aids, lateral movements, turns, all these things, and then the canter was an appendix almost, after that, after they talked about all that. So it takes a long time to be able to really shape the canter and influence it with your seat. All right. But let me see here. Yeah, Elena had posted a.
Should we do that one and then?
You will probably have to go.
Head off.
Yeah, exactly.
Have to go. I have to go to my bed.
Yeah. Okay, let's do that. So I was hoping you could take a look at it. Tell me what you think. She's an ex-trotter. We're both struggling with balance, rhythm, and stability. Yeah, trotters are hard to ride usually because they're bred for trotting super fast, right? And that has certain implications then for balance and flexibility and so on. A lot of the trotters that I've seen were very rigid in the rib cage. That creates stability when you trot like crazy, right? And the trotters, when they race, they take such big steps with the hind legs that they have to go around the front legs so they don't step on themselves. And I think for stability, they just brace the rib cage, right? So that's why it's often very difficult to get them to bend well and to become supple in the whole body, especially if they were at the racetrack and they were trained to race, right? Then you have that whole training baggage to deal with, although he looks pretty good, actually. Yeah. When the head goes up, it's when the outside hind is on the ground and they are not flexing yet. You can really see how the outside hind leg lifts the croup, and then every time that happens, the head comes up, the back goes down a little bit. And that's something that's fixable, of course, right? You just work on the hind legs, engage and flex them and so on, and then it gets better. It may take a while, but it will get better over time. Yeah, there. And then when the head starts to nod and come lower, that's a sign that the outside hind leg is starting to flex a little bit and starting to accept the weight a little bit. Seat is pretty good.
Yeah.
Independent and
lovely sense of length through your spine.
Right. Yeah, that's good. The trot can be a little jarring with the trotters too. But, you see it a little bit in the seat. It's not a terribly comfortable trot to sit at.
The speed it's so fast, isn't it? It's quite hard. Yeah.
Exactly. A lot of pushing, not a lot of flexing and carrying, right? Yeah, very quick. And you see it in the seat. That's when you can slow the tempo down a little bit, and you get the hind legs to flex more, then it gets more comfortable, then easier to sit, and the pelvis won't move quite so much. But I mean, right now you have to move, right? With the horse's back. It's just the way it is, right? You could still flex your knees more and get your lower legs reaching back and down a little bit. It gives more stability to the seat and gives more independence to the pelvis too.
I don't know about what you think, Thomas, but almost like a little bit more actively stretching the knees down might help around the pelvis and spine.
Yeah,
it's slightly less sort of floppy. Yeah.
And then the little bit more flexion of the knee with the heel going towards the hind leg on the ground, that creates stability and independence. If like here, sometimes the lower leg swings forward, that always takes away some of the stability, because then your foundation is no longer there, right? When your center of gravity is behind your heels, or you're behind your feet, then the seat gets a little wobbly and unstable, right? And when you can keep your feet under your center of gravity, at least if your heels are under the center of gravity, or even the middle of the foot could be under your center of gravity, then you have more powerful seat and greater stability. And then you're in a position where you can shape the gait with your seat, and you can shape the posture, right? You can slow down, you can soften the rough edges of the jarring trot. It's like polishing a jagged rock that becomes rounder and rounder and rounder. You can do that with your seat, right? And taking off the sharp edges of the movement and so on. But you need your feet underneath your seat bones. And when horses are very tough to sit, sometimes it helps to shorten the stirrups a little bit. That gives you a little bit more freedom of motion. And then you can lengthen them again when they're softer to sit and the rib cage expands and they fill your seat and leg a little bit more. So, I mean, the stirrups don't look too long per se, but sometimes, when the horse is really hard to sit, it makes the rider's job a little easier if you shorten the stirrups a whole compared to your normal length. That's what I would do sometimes, And stretching the knee. Let's see there. Stretching your knee forward, downward, and your lower legs a little back and down will also draw your pelvis closer to the pommel. And the closer you are to the pommel, the more you're sitting in the center of the horse's back movement. The farther you get back behind, the center of that movement, the bigger it gets. So towards the cantle, the movement of the horse's back gets bigger, which means harder to sit, right? If you can be closer to the pommel, the up and down movement of the horse's back is a little smaller, so it makes it easier to sit, right? And in order to get there, your knee has to make room, your knee has to allow it, right? If your knee stretches forward and down, it pulls your pelvis with it, because the pelvis is attached to the knee through the femur, right? And then you can move your pelvis closer to the pommel, and you move your lower leg back, then you have a very concentrated, powerful seat.
It's a funny one, because a lot of people think about flexing the ankles, but there's a difference. You can get a different feeling if you think about extending the heel backwards. It has a different feel than flexing the front of the ankle.
Right.
So often thinking about the back of the foot and the heel, you'll still get a flex in the foot, but it has a different stability to just flexing your heel down.
Yeah, for me, it helps to think of my heel pointing at the hind leg, or trying to step on the horse's toes with my heel. That was a bit of a breakthrough for me back then, rather than heels down, right?
Yeah, heels down is.
It's what, of course.
Well, I don't think much of it.
That's what we were taught, right? But it often
absolutely
leads to the lower leg coming forward, right? And then ankle maybe locking up or so, because you're so busy pushing the heel, I don't know, forward and down or whatever. But if I just think of reaching back and down, so it's not even pushing, it's reaching.
It's reaching,
back,
exactly. You reach with your heels.
Has a softer quality to it.
Yeah, it definitely does.
Yeah.
Rather than just closing the front of your ankle.
Exactly.
I think also, Alina, what I see is that because you know, obviously with the difficulty in the horse, you know, your horse is fast and everything else. It's just sometimes you lose your balance, like we all do.
Exactly, yeah.
And then, you know, you have to try and find it again.
Yeah.
So you're going to go back and forth between finding your balance and losing your balance, and finding your balance and losing your balance. And you see there, you've got that sense a little bit, hasn't she, Thomas, that the heel is reaching towards the hind legs, and there it loses. So it's just maintaining it for longer periods of time. That's just the process, isn't it, of improvement?
Yeah, it's actually an interesting moment, because
you see the switch.
Yeah. So here she's adjusting the leg, right? With little off, and that's fine, right? You can take your leg off and adjust it so that it goes to the place where you want it to be. And then you see here the half halt from the seat, right? You can see how she stills her pelvis and lumbar spine. Everything becomes very solid, and the lower leg is a little farther back. And the goal here is to keep that hind leg on the ground and flex it, right? That's basically a seat half halt. I don't know if she's using the rein or not, you know, it's not visible, but you can see it in the seat, you know. And then
and in that moment, the extensor muscles, or the muscles in the back of you, have won over the flexors. The flexors and muscles in your front are the ones which rescue you when you feel like you're falling.
Right.
So that often you'll feel the muscles in your front gripping when you lose balance. And then that moment where you had that really beautiful balance, everything in the back of you was more engaged, and the front of you therefore could be softer and longer.
Yeah, now
and that's life.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then the outside hind's in the air, and then she releases the lower leg, and it goes forward a little bit. So if you can release without the lower leg going forward, just keep it where it was, right? But just relax the leg muscles. That would be better, right? Because otherwise the lower leg is forward, your center of gravity is behind the support base, so you lose balance a little bit backwards, right? In that moment, even if it's just minimal, you know. So yeah, I would try keeping that knee stretched, lower leg back. And what happens when your lower leg gets forward and you get slightly behind the movement is that now you have a lot of weight on your seat bones, which could drop the horse's back, and it could prevent the hind legs from engaging, right? Because now there's a lot of pressure from your seat bones onto the back, and then the horse might cave in and the hind legs might go out, right? So if you keep that leg position with your feet under your center of gravity, you have more control over weight distribution. Because if your lower leg is too far forward, you lose the control. You're forced to basically sit on the seat bones. That's what catches you and prevents you from falling over the back of the croup, right? And if you keep your legs underneath and you keep your weight around your spread around your inner thighs and rib cage of the horse, then you can shape that phase of the stride. Whereas if you lose balance, you can't shape that stride. You're victim of gravity for a second, and then once you're back in balance, then you can influence the horse again, right? So if you keep a little bit of that little bit more angle in your knee a little bit lower, heel reaching for the hind foot, then you don't lose your balance, right? Or you don't lose it as much, and you can recover it more quickly, and you can influence every phase of every stride of the horse, right?
I think it's also worth mentioning, and I think this is what Jackie is saying, is that the better that your horse goes, the easier it is to maintain that. So
Exactly.
sometimes you're in that catch-22 situation where your horse is pulling you into losing a little bit for a moment, and then you're going, oh God, and trying to recover. So I think you're doing a great job.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about that yesterday, right?
Yeah, exactly.
The better you sit, the better the horse goes. The better the horse goes, the better you can sit, or the easier it is to sit well, right? And sometimes you have to sit well in spite of the horse, right? And then make the horse better.
Yeah.
And it's a feedback loop, right? Absolutely. I mean, everybody loses balance once in a while. If the horse takes a funny step or loses his balance, they can take you with them, and then you lose your balance too. Then you have to recover, and it's just part of life in a way, right? But I mean, we're just nitpicking, really. I mean, Alina has a good seat, and she's very effective and stuff. We're just trying to look for things where you can still optimize it a little bit more, right? But not a criticism or anything like that.
No.
Yeah.
So this is I think I'm going to leave you.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
I can answer a couple more questions, and those of you who are in the course, in the Contact and Connection course, will see Catherine there.
You will.
And Charlotte and me, and
yeah.
So
I'm looking forward to those of you who've joined up. I'm really looking forward to this is a great course. It's really fun, and it's so informative, and it's such a nice balance between your seat and how you can develop your riding and the patterns that Thomas gives. It's a really nice combination. It's fantastic.
Yeah, you need all of it.
Yes.
The exercises, the seat, the aids,
Yeah, exactly. And Shanna and Thomas give so much, in these courses. There's just so much information that, even if you did it 4 times, you'd still be getting something new from it. And you can do it 4 times.
Yes.
As often as you
That's
like.
the beauty, because it's yours for life. So
yes, once you're in it, you're included in every round.
I mean, with the What, Why, How course, this time I've managed to kind of work my way through. I think the first time I looked at module 1, and then the second time maybe I got to about 3, but now I'm sort of really quite keeping up.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's the way it goes sometimes.
That's the way it goes, exactly.
Yeah. And that's okay.
So if
no wrong way.
You can't keep up with every week. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It really doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly.
There is time.
QQ wasn't really ready to do a whole lot more.
He wasn't, no.
Yeah, because he was still in rehab, really, from
exactly
life and trauma and everything else.
Yeah, that's true. And now he's much more open to these ideas.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Great to meet you all and to see all your posts and meet your horses, and well done for posting your videos. It's so brave. And see those of you who are joining in the course, and look forward to it.
Yeah.
All right. Take care.
Have a good evening.
Thanks, Catherine.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye. I've been listening outside of the screen, the camera, whatever.
Callie says the different videos and discussions are super interesting. Janet says, hello from Norway. Thank you so much from your help yesterday, Barbell. Absolutely loved it. He was so calm and forward. He was able and stable, not sticking to the ground. Our energy flow was like day and night. He was so responsive to my hips that I had to collect him today. He was like rubber and the combination of dancing and flying forward. Hey,
super.
We finally had a bounce in all gates. It was true bliss. Thank you so much for the help. That's so nice to hear.
That's cool. cool.
His head and nose was forward, and I think I'm more of a body rider and less of a brain rider. Probably Barbell
Yeah.
was over the moon today. Yeah,
Yeah, awesome.
that sounds really great. I'm glad we could help. Glad
Yes.
that made things better. That's really awesome. Heather Parnham Wilson says, yes, Catherine, I have to go to my bed too. I can't believe how I've managed to stay up so long during this course, but I just couldn't miss it.
Oh.
Katarina Hall says, thanks a lot. I will watch again and soak in. So there was no problem with my pedal. Not really. In the canter, sometimes there was a little bit of a loss of connection, but that's probably from the horse pushing down into the bit with the inside hind leg, not engaging and flexing enough. But it's a lesson horse. It's a lesson situation. So yeah, it's hard sometimes. And I mean, the horses, when they really push down and into the rein, it's not so easy to keep the connection between the body and the rein. That can take quite a bit of strength in your seat, right? And yeah, it's something that needs to be addressed not just in the seat but in the horse. But if it's a lesson horse that you don't own and other people ride, then you're very limited to how much you can really improve the horse, right? So you just have to do the best with what you have at the moment, right? And what often helps when they push down is to briefly close both legs and resist with your lower back and then release again, and maybe drive the hind legs under the split second later. So it's a very quick succession of quick, resistance and then release and drive and then catch it on the up phase again. So, but yeah, takes a while to get that down. It took me many years. Yeah, Jackie says to this lady who posted the video of the X-Trotter, thank you for sharing it. I'm very impressed at what you're doing with him. It looks hard to sit and you do it so well. Yeah, no. Absolutely. Trotters are difficult. I mean, I've worked with a couple, over the years and with students, horses, and I always found them very challenging because of, the job that they're bred to do and because of the training they went through at the racetrack. It's, I mean, if you can make a nice riding horse out of a trotter, respect.
Then
that's
job
hard.
well done.
Yeah, exactly. That's a hard thing to do. No. And Sarah says, thank you all so much for answering all my questions. You're so kind to be giving us so much of your time and amazing knowledge. Thank you. You're welcome.
You're welcome.
Elena says, thank you so much for the feedback. I will try these in action next time. Yeah, and let us know how it goes. Helen says, thanks for taking time with knees today. Imagine the kneeling seat, like kneeling in a church. Exactly. That's often what I say too. It's like in a church pew. It's a similar kind of position, really. If you feel a slight stretch through your quads, that's not a bad thing. Yeah. Like if you reach forward and down with your knees and then flex your knees and reach back and down with your heels, that's what creates a bit of a stretch of the quads. At least it used to do it for me, So as you're getting used to it, don't be surprised if you feel that a little bit. Eventually it goes away. I mean, everything is always changing, right? But now I don't feel that pull anymore, but for a while I did. Karen Kennedy. Stuart says, you've answered a lot of my question, but if you get the chance to look at my video on the Facebook page, I would be really grateful. I've got so much out of the last few days. Hope you do this again soon so I can do the course. Unfortunately, funds are tight at the moment. It's still on furlough. Yeah,
Understand.
That is hard. Yeah. Let me just check a couple more here.
That's also her. So
yeah, exactly. Big bouncy moving Frisian. I find it hard to keep my lower legs and hands still, which doesn't help. Yeah, but let me see. It's in the course.
It's in the challenge.
It's in the challenge.
And the Facebook group.
Yeah, let me
Let
see
me
if I
go
can.
and quote is her name, Karen.
Sandy Stewart. I can see if I can find it, and Shanna will try and find this. I have to close a few windows with the other videos. Let me. Yeah. It might take a second here. Kennedy Stewart, it doesn't recognize you. Oh, no, here it is. I think from yesterday, huh?
Yep.
Is that the novice test 24? Novice
Yes,
24
yeah,
test?
must be.
Okay,
That's the only
okay,
video
yeah, I
there's-
found that. Yeah, Frisians can be a little tricky, like we were talking about yesterday. They're, they have their peculiarities that are sometimes not so easy.
They're often pretty friendly horses.
Yeah,
They're
exactly.
really pretty, of course. Nice to watch,
Right.
but not always so easy to ride.
Right. Yeah. I mean, every individual and every breed has their own peculiarities, right? And Hubert Rohr always used to say, "Know your horse, know your breed," and that's true, right? You have to kind of know the idiosyncrasies of the individual and of the breed.
Mhm.
Looks like she's out pooping there, which doesn't
Yeah.
make things easier, right? When they poop, then the croup goes up and it rotates the wrong way. So, but there's nothing you could do at that moment, right? So you could see that starting. The difficulty keeping hands and legs quiet, happens when the horses have a lot of movement, and when the movement is not especially soft and swingy, right? When it's more jarring, then it can be very difficult. When your lower legs and hands move, but in some ways it's a compensation, right? That you're not moving enough somewhere else, right? And that's usually hip joints and knees.
It's usually because, the hips are not able to absorb enough of the motion that it spreads over. There's like a ripple effect, right?
So to change it, I would address it from two sides. On the one hand, I would try to make the horse more comfortable to sit, right? Engaging the hind legs, flexing the hind legs. And then on the other hand, you can work on your seat. Let me find a trot again. Or let's go back to the trot maybe. Yeah, so that you see the some of the posting trot issues we were talking about, with the lower legs coming off when you stand up. So you're probably pushing yourself off the stirrups a little too much. Stirrups are probably also a tad long. I would shorten them so that you can have more flexion in your knees and hips. That gives you more play, so to speak, more flexibility. When you have a horse that has a lot of movement or a lot of movement that's not especially soft, then shorter stirrups help, right? Because you have to absorb all this big up and down movement of the horse's back, right? And if your legs are relatively extended in neutral or when you're sitting down, then you have no space or no room to go up anymore, right? So you have to have a neutral position that is flexed enough, hips and knees flexed enough that you can extend them when the horse's back comes up, right? So I think shortening the stirrups a hole or two would already make life a lot easier for you.
Yeah, and in the posting trot, the suggestion given earlier to try to get this feeling that you're reaching down and back, I think that might be helpful for you if you play that concept.
Yeah. Think of kneeling and letting your knees slide forward and down.
Yeah, forward and down, but then it's like the lower leg reaches down and back.
Yeah.
Like if you've ever done yoga in some of the standing poses, for example, in the warrior pose, that back leg, it has this feeling of reaching back all the way into the outside edge of the foot. And that's what you're trying to get, that reaching down and back feeling.
So if you draw a line along your femur, right? And extend that line.
Mm.
Try to let your knee follow this line as far as it goes, as far forward and down as it goes, which will also pull your pelvis closer to the pommel, etc.
Mhm.
And then, once you've let your knee slide a little in this direction, and let gravity help you in that, flex your knee, and now with your heel, aim for the hind foot, like you want to step on her toes.
Mhm.
That's an image that helps me.
Yes.
That creates a stretch, and it creates flexion, and it gives you space to move up and down, and it gives you independence. If your lower leg is reaching back and down, then your center of gravity will fall somewhere between your feet, and then you're secure in your balance. Whereas here, your lower leg is a little too far forward. Center of gravity is behind the heel, so you become unstable, right? So you may come down a little too hard on your seat bones or behind the movement, and then like I said earlier, you won't be able to shape the movement of the horse's back or of the trot if your center of gravity is behind your support base. If you let your body weight flow around the rib cage of the horse and into the knees, that will stabilize your lower legs too. Because right now it looks like there isn't really any weight in your thighs and knees, right? It's more in your seat bones.
Yeah.
When you sit, and it's probably in the stirrups when you go up, and that makes the lower leg wobbly. If you can pour your weight like water through a pipe, through your thighs and knees, and lengthen the femur, so to speak, let your knee follow that axis of the femur towards the ground, and bring your heels back, then everything becomes more stable. You have more control over your balance. You can land softly. You can shape the movement of the horse's back and the hind legs. And then, if your support base is more secure, then you can also relax your arms, and your hand muscles arm muscles will relax.
And you'll be able to get a better quality contact with your horse.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you may have to, keep your hands a tad higher so that your elbows have a little bit more angle. So that, because if your elbows are too extended, then the rein contact of the horse will go to the shoulder, and then there's always the danger that your hand will go up when you rise, and it will come down when you sit. Or in the sitting trot, same thing. When your body goes up with the horse's back, your hand may come up if your elbow is too extended, and then the hand will go down when the horse's back comes down and your seat comes down, right? So whereas if you have flexion in your elbow, then your hand stays where it is. Your body goes up behind your hand, it comes down behind your hand. So that gives you more independence overall. And canter looks better. The canter is probably a little bit more comfortable to sit. And see that your legs are quieter, and the hands were coming up a little here. It looks like it's an effort to make the horse canter more uphill. And that doesn't work, unfortunately, right? If you try to lift the horse here with your hand, what will happen more likely is that the horse will bring the head, the paw up and back, and the withers drop, right? And then the neck gets short, the horse comes above the bit. If you keep your hands in the normal neutral position, and then try to shape the canter more uphill by letting your pelvis swing up more, and maybe stepping into the outside stirrup when the outside hind leg is down and the withers are up, then you have a better chance of success. And try to keep your hands quiet, and let your body go up and down behind your hands. So in other words, keep forearms, hands more relaxed, and move less with them in that sense. Move more with your pelvis, like let your pelvis swing up more, and keep your hands where they are. But like I said, shaping the canter with a seat not so easy, right? Sitting well is not so easy. And then it depends a little bit on how the horse canters. You know, if they have a huge canter stride, that makes it more difficult. If they have a lot of push, and if they like to push themselves onto the forehand, that makes it difficult, right? So, and you could see how in the down transition, the horse fell apart a little bit, right? And then ran away a little in the trot, like there, right? And of course, then when the horse loses balance and starts running, then you lose your balance a little bit. And here you can see that the stirrups are a little bit on the long side, and the reins have become too long. So you have to then very quickly shorten the reins. And yeah, in a training session, you could go back to the walk. That would be more effective, but in a test you can't, right? You just have to make the best of it, right? But yeah, if you can have the stirrups a little shorter and then quickly gather up the reins and regulate the tempo again with your seat and stirrup and half halt, then it's better. Now you've got the horse back. So yeah, it happens sometimes, right? It looked like there was supposed to be a forward downward stretching circle. That's tough to do on a Frisian because they're not bred for that, so to speak, and they have to learn that, or they have to discover that stretching forward downward is nice and feels good, and they learn that really through engaging and flexing the hind legs and collecting a little bit, right? So that often develops a little later with a Frisian, later in the training than with some other horses. Yeah. So yeah, some of the warm bloods, they figure out the forward downward stretching very quickly, and they know this is, you know, a comfortable thing to do. With Frisians, it can take a little longer because they're just built so with so much elevation in the neck. Right? So yeah. And so Karen says, Canter's lovely, Trot is our worst gait, isn't bad for lifting my hands. It's common, it's a common thing. A lot of people do that. Yeah. Oh, she says the caller said Trot and he broke early. Yeah, and they know the words, right? So perhaps Hamilton says good job, Karen. Yeah, Karen says thank you. That really helped. I'm glad. Yeah, it's a project. It's not so easy, right? But if you have a few ideas of things you can try, that's always, you know, helpful. That gets you to the next stage. Lynn says, I wonder if you know the reason sitting trot with stirrups is so much harder than without stirrups. I find it impossible to bounce and loose stirrups, but when I have no stirrups, I sit much deeper and feel secure. It's probably your ankles. If you have stiff ankles, then they push, you know, your feet push against the stirrup, and the ankles don't allow to participate in shock absorption that pushes the knee up and forward, and it pushes the pelvis back in the saddle, and then you bounce. So I don't know if you had an injury, maybe broken an ankle or damaged a tendon, you know, around the ankle.
Sometimes it's physical, and sometimes it's just that you need to work on gaining that ability for the ankle to stay relaxed so that it can move, sort of like the wrists. Our wrists shouldn't be rigid, right, or like this. They need to be soft so that we can softly use the reins and the edge can come through nicely. And the ankle, same thing. They need to learn to become soft and not brace against the motion, you know, so it can also, it's just a matter of developing it. That's all. Sometimes it's an injury, like he said, you know, sometimes people have old injuries, and this can be something that you have to work on. You can improve it to a degree, even with an injury, unless, you know, it's a complete, you know, metal plate in there, but you can improve it to a degree.
could also be
Many people do.
could also be that you have your feet too far in the stirrup. Like the more you stick your foot in the stirrup,
That's true.
the more the stirrup iron will block your
ankle from movement.
Yeah,
It can give you great stability if you're jumping, or if you're riding a horse that's a little fractious. It can be good to have the feet a little bit further in, but you lose some ability to be really mobile with the hip joints.
Yeah, so if you maybe just put your toes on the stirrup, then you have maximal distance between the stirrup iron and your ankle, and then you have a lot more ability to use your ankle like a spring, and to absorb the motion. So if you look at some pictures of the old Spanish riding school from the 30s, 40s, 50s, and so on, you often see pictures where the toe isn't even sticking out in front of the stirrup. It's just resting very lightly. Not something I would recommend for trail rides or jumping, right? But if you're in the arena doing dressage, you could play with that and see if that gives you a little bit more flexibility there. And then also says, am I right that the outside hind is down when you rise if you're on the correct diagonal? If so, how do you apply a half hold with your seat in rising trot? I'm not showing this to you. I'm just you can do different things. You can still your seat a little at the highest point, so to speak. You can step into the outside stirrup and maybe close your fingers a little bit, or you change the diagonal briefly and post on the wrong diagonal, or you could sit a couple of strides. So it's it's all acceptable. You can play with that and see how that works. If you can apply a half hold when you're in the rising phase, or if you need to be down. I mean, it could be that you can make it work, right? You might have to close your knees a little bit and linger in the up phase a little bit, and then come down again. And that could do the half hold. Or if you feel like, I just can't get it done with my seat up and out of the saddle, then just sit for a stride or two, or change diagonals for a stride or two. Just be very pragmatic in a sense. Diane says, hi guys, will these be available in the course to rewatch? Yes, if you're in the course, you can watch these Q&As.
Yeah, all of the recordings are there. You can even download them. So you can put them on your phone and listen to them while you're driving, or whatever works for you.
Yeah, Karen Verono says, thank you so much for this challenge. I'm very excited to begin the course. I was told by an instructor to move my hands slightly in the direction of movement when enlarging. Is this the correct thing to do? When my husband videoed me, I noticed that my attempt at enlarging was not as effective as I thought it was. I posted the video in the Facebook group, enlarging around the cone on the right. I mean, moving the hands out can help. Yeah, if you're going left rein here and you enlarge, if you move your hands to the right,
just don't cross your hand over the withers.
What will happen is that your outside hand will make a little space, by moving away from the neck, and the inside hand will create a little pressure against the inside of the neck and shoulder, and move the shoulder out, and then your inner thigh and knee can support. So if it's not too big, like Shanna says, if you're not crossing over the withers, then it can be helpful. You can experiment with that. It can make it clearer to the horse, and it's something that will help to move the forehand, especially. So if the horse is leaning on the inside shoulder, this will help. If the horse is drifting with the shoulder to the outside, then it probably will make it worse, actually. So going in the stiffer or naturally convex direction, moving both hands out can be helpful, right? In the hollow direction, the naturally concave direction where the horse likes to lean on the outside shoulder, it might make the horse more crooked, actually. So, but you do it in both directions and watch what happens. That's always the best thing to do, right? Tuya Nora Auto says, is there a difference with rising trot if you use Western saddle? I don't do much rising trot with Western saddle. It feels tricky when saddle pushes me more to chair seat. It's a good question.
Yeah, it depends on the balance of your saddle. Not all Western saddles have the same balance.
Yeah, I don't ride in Western saddles, and yeah, if the saddle puts you in a chair seat, it's difficult, I'm sure.
What you can do is somewhat counteract that so
Mm.
that you're trying to, when you're rising, you're trying to sit as close to the pommel as possible instead of the cantle, just back. So you're trying to land as close to the front as you can so that you're not getting pushed further back. And you can also try to keep your legs really underneath you so that they're not getting pushed forward.
Mhm.
And so you're trying to counteract the tendency of the saddle to want to push your seat back and the leg forward. You're trying to, keep the seat forward and the leg back a little bit more to counteract that. But it's a little more effort if your saddle is putting you there. Some stock saddles actually put you in a beautiful balance, Yeah. So it depends on the saddle.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw years ago pictures of cowboys in California
Yes.
from the 1940s, and they sat in a dressage seat. They had a stock saddle that was really short and deep, and their seat was exactly like a dressage seat. It was
the old
amazing to
style
watch.
stock saddles have the same balance. And of course there's trends and it evolves and it changes, and so some of the Western saddles, some still have a very good balance. I've seen some that still put the rider into a pretty good balance. There's some that don't. Same with dressage saddles though, you'd think all dressage saddles, well, they're all going to put you into a good balance. They don't. It's just the way it is that they're what might help one rider doesn't help another rider. So you have to also find the saddle that works for your body.
Right.
Yeah.
I've had dressage saddles that put me in a chair seat. My old Passier saddle, that was a bit of an issue.
Yeah.
And so you're fighting the saddle.
You're always working against the saddle, which is a lot of extra effort. Riding is hard enough, right? Trying to figure all of this stuff out. You don't need to make it harder on yourself. If you can, go get a different saddle. If you're finding it is the saddle, if you can, go get a different saddle that will work better for you and your horse, then do that. If you can't, then work with what you have. Just do the best you can with what you have.
Yeah, Christiana says mine is absolutely okay. It depends. Exactly. And Lynn was saying great things. I will play with the ankles and also the half false whilst rising. I've signed up to the course, so I'm looking forward to learning lots more.
Awesome.
Welcome to the course.
Yes, welcome. We should talk about the course too.
Yes, we should. Yeah. So Maria had said she posted a video of my very inexperienced 6-year-old male on the Facebook group, but understand if you don't have time to comment at this stage. I think we'll not comment on the video, but talk about the course because it's almost been 2 hours. So otherwise we'll be here until tomorrow morning. Heather Warburton was saying I hadn't thought about the saddle as I sit so much better on my other horse and don't have the swinging leg. I just assumed it was me. It may have a contributing effect. Yeah, absolutely.
It very well may.
Could well be. Could also be the horse's balance, the horse's gait.
There's several factors involved.
Yeah, I mean, then sometimes the rib cage doesn't fit the rider's legs so well. It makes it more difficult to sit. We all have a favorite shape.
Favorite shape, and also when the horse is not well muscled, correctly muscled, when they're incorrectly muscled or just underweight or underdeveloped, their body can kind of make it more difficult for the rider to sit well. And so as the horse develops better musculature, the horse's body actually fills the rider's seat better and helps support the rider's seat. So it gets better with time and training.
Yeah, it makes a big difference. When they lift their back and they expand the rib cage, it becomes much easier to sit. But if they drop the back and they suck in their sides, then there's no place for you to sit on, and then it gets really hard. So, Sharon wanted to talk about the course.
Yeah, let's do that. You don't have to start at the top of the page though.
Okay.
So,
as you share it, though.
As you all know, probably by now, unless this is the first, you've just shown up, you're just here. This is the first time seeing us. This challenge is all part of it, like the prelude to our 2021 Contact and Connection online course. So It's a 16-week course where we teach you the theory, that's the what, the why, and the how with gymnastic exercises. And let's scroll down a little bit so I can get to the, thank you, the part where it talks about this so you have something to look at. Sorry. Okay, yeah, 16-week course. Here we go. So we go into the biomechanics theory about contact and connection. Of course, this is contact and connection are not separate from everything else in the training. It's a system where everything is interrelated. But in this course, we're putting the spotlight on this one topic and looking at how that topic is influenced by everything else and how it influences everything else. And we're really, looking at how we can really improve this specific thing. Of course, straightness plays a role. Balance plays a role. Also, relaxation plays a role. So many other things, it's the list goes on because it's all interrelated. So even though the topic of the course is contact and connection, we will be touching on many of these other things. In fact, in one of the modules, we specifically talk about all the other ways, all the interplay. I think I have to get something out of the oven just a second. I'm cooking something. So, and the how is with gymnastic exercises to help you develop the horse, but also with Feldenkrais lessons for the rider. So we have instructional videos where, yes, I'm being summoned.
Yeah.
Can you take over?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we have videos where we, explain the theory and the exercises, and for each exercise, there's a PDF, where, there's a graphic and explanation how to write it and what it's good for, and always the what, why, how basically of the exercise. And we usually point out where difficult spots might be, what to watch out for, and so on. Yeah, and we have Feldenkrais lessons because riding the horse on the bit or having a good contact requires the horse to be straight and balanced and supple and going forward well enough, etc. But there's also the rider side of the coin, right? So if the rider isn't straight and balanced and supple, then the horse won't be able to go through the back and on the bit because the rider interferes, right? So the Feldenkrais lessons help a lot with improving the seat and creating the connection of the rider's torso to the reins, to the legs, and to the horse's body, and so on. So they have been such a big hit that we have been including them in every course. And Catherine McCrum and Charlotte Zetterberg are Feldenkrais teachers. Catherine is the one who has recorded the Feldenkrais lessons that you get. Charlotte has also contributed some written scans you can do, and some little exercises that you can do on the horse, and they both answer questions in the groups. Then we have imagery lessons. Mental images can help. A lot of people use them. Not everybody, of course, uses them, but a lot of people do. And when I was working on these contact issues and seat, improving my seat, sometimes certain mental images would come up, and I found them helpful, right? And so I have included them in the course. And so we're hoping that if we cover all bases, everybody will get something out of it that works, right? So there's the horse part with the exercises, there's the theory part, so you understand how everything is connected and why the horse may not be on the bit, or what to do to get on the bit. And then the Feldenkrais lessons to help with the seat, the imagery lessons to help with the seat, and then we have our Q&A coaching sessions. It's sort of like what we've done here, where you ask questions and we answer them.
Yes, and those are held once every other week. It's bi-weekly. And so we have 2 levels of the course, basic level and premium level. So all of that is included at basic level. And at premium level, we have additional things that we can go into. Do you want to talk about what's in the course? or just go on and talk about the premium level?
Yeah,
You can
let's do
come
that.
back to that.
Yeah, we can come back. Let's do
Yeah.
the premium level since you
So, yep, since I mentioned it. So at the premium level, additionally, you get the live hot seat coaching, which is like what we did where we looked at videos here tonight and yesterday night and the night before, and or day for it might be day for you, it's night for us. So that's where we look at the videos that are submitted and we give a breakdown. You can ask questions. What do you see going on here? You know, why do you think that happens? And the cool thing about the hot seats, one, they're held live. So you can show up and ask questions right then and there. You can get greater clarification, and we can ask questions of you if it's live, if you're there. If you show up, if you can't show up, it's okay because they're all recorded. But if you're there, we can ask questions too. Like, were you asking for this here or were you asking for something else? So we can better understand exactly what was happening right then. And so we can have a conversation about that. And what's also really cool about the hot seats is it's in a group like we are tonight or today. You can ask questions on other people's videos too. Like, I noticed this happening. Could that be because of this? Or why is that happening? You know, so that you can really improve your understanding in your eye and you really see how it all works, how it all plays out. It's like attending a dressage clinic that goes on for 16 weeks. So, yeah, so we do that. One hot seat coaching session for each module, and those are usually run about 2 hours long. If there are more hot seats than we can get to, we will schedule additional ones so that we don't leave anyone out. We also have, let me scoot down here for a second, our Loom feedback videos. That's where we basically give feedback the same way, but it's not live. It's not live like we are right now. This is just Thomas records a little video. You may have seen some posted in the Facebook group already. He records a little video with his commentary over it, and then he posts it into the group, and you can ask questions right there and have a conversation about it, you know, so that if you don't want to be in the hot seat session, it's just not comfortable for you, or you want feedback quicker and you don't want to wait for the next session, you can just post it in the group and say, I want Loom feedback on this one. And we'll do that. And so we also have accountability pods. These are, it's optional to sign up, but if you sign up, I assign you into a small little group of people that usually I try to get people that are in the same sort of time zone or have similar interests. And so I make little groups, and this is kind of your go-to group. You have the larger Facebook group, which I haven't mentioned, but there's a larger Facebook group like we have for the challenge. But this is a smaller group, and these groups, each group is autonomous. So we're not running the groups, it's your group to run. And you can decide if you want to just have a little Facebook group, for example, for discussing, or even just a message, just a group chat, you know, to discuss things. Some of them like to get together on Zoom calls, Zoom meetings like we are right now, except they're all on and, you know, having a meeting together, and they share videos, they talk about their progress, their struggles, what they're working on, they help each other, they sometimes help each other with other stuff, tech stuff. And what we've seen in these accountability pods are several things. One, friendships are formed that go way beyond the course. These people get together outside of the course. You know, even if they have to fly to each other, or sometimes they're within driving distance, they get together and they become real life friends. And two, the people that take part in the accountability pods, they make the most progress time and time again. Those are the people that really excel in the course. Anything about the accountability pods?
No, that's fine.
And then there's also a Facebook group, which I alluded to already. And so this Facebook group is just for the premium level members. And this is like what we have here in the challenge. You can post your questions, you can post your ahas, your discoveries, your wins. You can share anything and everything that you want, and you can get more feedback and support. It's just another layer of support. We're all about giving the support. If you want it, that's at premium level. If you just want to show up for the Q&As, that's basic level. So do you want to talk about what's in the course briefly? Just go over the modules? Yeah. So by the way, the course starts on Monday. That's August 2nd, this coming Monday. Today is our last Q&A for the challenge. This is the last time we're going live. Yeah, this is the official end of the challenge. The group and all the videos will stay available for a few more days until we begin the contact and connection course, and then it'll all be shut down. So you have until then to catch up. If you're still trying to catch up, you have a few days. Never fear, you can do it. But if you want to continue the learning, we invite you to join us in the course. So Thomas will talk about.
Yeah, so we start really very basic. Why contact? Some people, think you can write without contact and stuff. So we really explain it from the very beginning. Why do I need the rain contact? What does it do? What is it good for? And the contact as a whole body experience. It's not just between the horse's mouth and your hand. It involves your entire body, horse's entire body, etc.
Yeah.
So that's the beginning module 1.
And how to tell the difference really between a fake outline, like a headset, and real, true, honest connection. And how can you tell? Because you might not be sure when you're looking at a horse or when you're riding a horse. How can you tell? So we get into that. Also, in the roadmap to a good rein contact. So we lay out the overview so you understand the whole process that's involved and how it leads to good, healthy rein contact.
And we always have writing exercises and imagery lessons and Feldenkrais lessons. It's sort of in each module.
In each module.
And then here, the theory then covers basically everything I could think of, because the rein contact is a reflection of what's going on in the horse's entire body. So it has a lot of different aspects like balance. It's reflective of the balance. It's reflective of the straightness of the horse, the suppleness, the mental relaxation. Conformation plays a role. Some horses are easier to ride on the bit than others, which can be because of the way they're built, then we have a little bit more in-depth look at what does that even mean to be on the bit, right? And what's the right amount of contact? How much is too much? What's the right rein length? These are always questions we get a lot, right? So a lot of riders don't really know, right? And so they send us emails, or in courses they ask these questions. Yeah, they're totally legitimate.
Legit and really good questions.
Yeah, and nobody has explained that to them, right? So we thought we will just include them in the course and discuss them. And hopefully that gives you a little bit more complete understanding of all the different things that are involved in rein contact, right? And then, of course, creating rein contact. How do I get the horse on the bit, right? I mean, teachers may have told you have to ride him more on the bit, right? So it's what happened to me in a lesson when I was young. And I knew the horse wasn't on the bit, but I would have loved to ride him on the bit, but the teacher didn't say how. He just told me that I needed to do it. So now we're trying to put that into words and explain to you how to go about riding the horse on the bit. So, and then, of course, then you have to know what goes into it, what are the ingredients, also how do I pick up the reins or shorten the reins, because you have heard probably that teachers tell you shorten the reins, reins are too long. Well, how do you do that, right? And then
what is the best way to do
exactly.
it? Yeah, so that you don't just make the horse shorten the neck.
Exactly, or you're not pulling basically on the reins, right? And how do I get a light, steady, even contact? That was always sort of the goal, right? That this rein contact should be light, steady, and even and bone. Sounds good, but how do I do that? How do I get there, right? Then, a question you often hear is, how do I get the horse to reach forward to the rein contact? How do I get my horse over the back and into the outside rein? These are all these very common questions people have, and that are usually not answered very well by most trainers, right?
Or only partially well,
Yeah,
you know, like
exactly.
superficially answered.
Yeah.
And you don't get the real meat of what you actually need to do to go make
Yeah.
this happen with your horse.
Yeah.
So we get into that.
Yeah. So yeah, how do I feel whether the contact is correct? How do I identify how much contact a certain horse needs? Very essential questions, very basic and important questions, right? And it's good to talk about them and explain them. Then that gives you a much clearer understanding of what it is that you're feeling from the horse and what you can do to make it better. If you're not happy with it. Yeah, and then module 5 is the seat, all about the seat and the contact, all the different body parts, how to use them, how they can influence the rein contact, etc. And that's, of course, where Feldenkrais becomes especially valuable, because it helps you become more aware of where your pelvis is and your thighs and your knees and the lower legs and so on. Then module 6 is the application of the aids, right? The aids flow from the seat, and then we have to talk about timing of the aids. I think is then in the module 7. But here, how do I develop a light, friendly hand that's always ready to yield? Something that Egon von Eindhoff would always say: friendly hand, light hand, and so on. And then we explain how many rein aids there are, all the things you can do with the reins. Like framing the shoulder, turning the shoulder, lifting a shoulder, lifting the withers, and so on. It's all different rein aids, rein and seat. It's never the rein just by itself. It's always rein and orchestra of the aids, right? Then half holds, of course.
Contact and motion.
Right.
Yeah.
And,
so, to be able to give a good half halt, you have to really know where your horse's feet are, so that you can time your half halt to arrive into specific legs, right? So that it really helps specific legs to bend and absorb the weight. You need to know where those feet are so that you can do that. So we go into how you can determine where your horse's feet are.
Yeah, exactly. That's because the half hold will only go through when the hind leg that you're targeting is on the ground and in front of the vertical. So you have to learn to feel that moment, right?
Yes. And connecting a leg to the ground and the weight. So this is part of half halting, but it's also part of really building a really, really good connection from back to front and front to back in the horse, so that the aids and everything is permeable. So it really goes through, and connecting the feet, the horse's legs and feet to the ground with your aids is a really big, important part of this. It makes a huge difference in how your horse goes.
Yeah, and then we talk about maintaining a good contact during transitions, because a lot of horses come above the bit when you do transitions from one gait to another, right? So we talk about that. And
the bending rein aids.
The bending rein aids.
And module 7, yes.
And then module 8 is all about
all the different problems.
Problems, exactly. And 9 as well.
Yeah, more problems.
8 and 9, all the mistakes you can think of. And if you can think of additional rein contact problems that are not in the course, let us know. Maybe we'll come up with something.
We'll even add them.
We'll add it.
Yeah,
exactly.
We're happy to add to this if there's something that's not covered.
Yeah. And then advanced concepts like elevation, pull, flexion, collection, they're all connected with each other. They influence each other. That's a really interesting topic that everybody should be aware of. And then also the kinetic chains and blockages, because you'll find that if your horse's pole is locked on one side, the hip joint is probably locked on the same side as well. And so they influence each other.
And likely it influences the shoulder on the other side, shoulder and rib cage. So you're going to notice, and when you know that these certain chains happen, you'll see them happening in your horse, and it'll be easier for you to come to more accurate conclusions in your training.
And we go a little bit into the French tradition, ramener, rassembler, légèreté. It's something that's good to know. I mean, I come from the German and Austrian tradition, but
they're interesting.
I've read the French books, and there's good information in there too, and useful concepts.
It's really useful to know what these are,
exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's good to study it, so makes a more well-rounded writer, right? If you're familiar with those. Yeah, lifetime access. All the
Yes.
courses have lifetime access.
Yes,
so,
regardless of which level you join,
right.
you have lifetime access and you get all upgrades to that level of the course. So if you join at basic level, you get the next time we run the course again at basic level, you get that next course and you get to be included in the Q&As and everything, any upgrades, any changes we make to the course, you will get. Same thing if you join at the premium level, you not only get to enjoy the hot seats and the Looms and the Facebook group and the accountability pods now, and the Q&As, of course, at both levels, the Q&As, but you also get all of that the next time we run the course too. So when we run the course every time, you can do the full experience if you want to. You don't have to either, but you're welcome to join. We always include our alumni. The alumni are really amazing because they give as much as they get, because they really help everyone else by sharing their experiences and their observations. So it becomes this group learning experience. Everybody's learning, everybody's helping each other. It's really, really interesting. And so, and we have a 100% happiness guarantee. We want you to be totally happy with your enrollment in the course. So if you're not happy at any point within the first 30 days, just let us know and we'll give you a full refund. No problem. We want you to jump in, dive in, give it the full experience, experience it, learn the content, get feedback, get support, attend the Q&As and the hot seats and all of these, and really give it a good try to see if it will work for you. And if it doesn't, no problem. Just let us know. So, yeah. So if you're not sure if, taking an online course is really going to work for you, if you're going to like the way we teach, by now you might know that or not. But if you're still not sure, take the chance. And if it doesn't work, just let us know. So we also have a whole bunch of bonuses. Hope you haven't refreshed this page, Thomas.
No.
Because the bonuses changed. Yeah, sorry guys. That top one got taken off. Yeah. So one of the bonuses fell off this morning, but we have all the other bonuses still there. So this is a really cool one. This is the virtual Leave bundle. So this is a little package of recordings that we have done of videos. Right now we have writers from the Spanish Writing School and Nuno Oliveira, and we've recorded commentary over these, explaining what's going on, what's notable, what we know and understand from our perspective and our experience of these courses and these schools and everything that we see, everything that you should look for, notice, how nicely the ankles, how supple the ankles are in this rider and things like that. So we really help develop your eye about what's really, really good in these. And also, you also see the different traditions a little bit this way too. And we're going to add some new ones. Right now there's 11 recordings and we're going to add some new ones. We're going to do some recordings of the riders in the Olympics right now. Yeah. So not every single ride. We're not going to do every single one. No one wants to listen to us do that. But we're going to pick some really notable rides and we're going to record commentary of these. So that's coming and you're going to get that. Those will be added. So also you'll get all of the downloadable recordings with lifetime access to this challenge, including every one of these bonus Q&As. So we also have a series of master classes that you will get. One is on tempo and speed, one is on stirrup stepping, one is on the full pass, which is a gymnastic exercise we use in some of our trainings and some of our exercises. It's a movement really that we use. And so, but a lot of people don't know what it is and don't know how to use it. And so we did a whole training on what it is, what its what is it good for, and how do you do it? So how do you do it well? And so we did a whole training on that. And so also the half halt and how can Feldenkrais help riders. These are downloadable recordings of a little free course we did at one point to introduce riders to the concept of using Feldenkrais. Well, but we didn't give those recordings for free. We're giving you those recordings so that you can download them and do them at any time. They're lessons, Feldenkrais lessons, essentially. There's 7 of them. And let's see here, 3 tips to improve your rein contact, 3 things you must not do if you want good rein contact, how to improve your horse's top line, how to get your horse on the bit, failing forward, how to embrace your mistakes, and how to seize and create opportunities in your riding. How do I get a light, steady, even rein contact, which is one of the topics in one of our modules anyway, but we did a whole live training on that as well. Also another one on the circle of the aids. These are super good for downloading, putting on your phone or stream to your phone. Either way is fine. And listen while you're driving or cleaning stalls or walking the dog. These are really great for just, trying to take it in through osmosis. It's sort of like your personal podcast. You get all of these. So yeah, and so that is it. We can answer some questions if there's any questions. Let's drop the link to.
I had it, but we can do it again.
Oh, okay. You already did?
Yeah, it's at the top now, but let me see.
Yep.
I can do it again.
Yeah, the course starts on Monday, August 2nd. And if you have any questions or have any trouble with the payment or need any help with the payment, just let us know. Just email ritterdressage@gmail.com and our team they're ready to help you. We have people actually all over the world pretty much on the team so that we can cover any time zone. There's usually no more delay than usually, unless there's a huge backlog, no more delay than a few hours, usually. I used to handle all the email myself, and the delay was, yeah. So now I have a whole bunch of people that are really amazing. They help. Some of them are people that came up through the courses. Yeah, some of them are people that we knew, like Sandy is somebody that we knew before we even had online courses. And so she's joined us and is incredibly helpful. So any questions?
Perhaps Hamilton says these courses aren't just courses, they're a learning community that encompasses so much.
Yes, thank you, Babs. That's so true. It's a good way of putting it.
Yeah. Vicky says, thank you so much. Working on all the exercises on 2 of my horses, so much information. Taking courses, but trying to get time so I can actively participate more with video. Still trying to decide if I can do this course due to time constraints.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, it supports all the others, though. I mean,
it does.
Rein contact is always involved in everything, right? Just like straightness is always involved in everything. So they will potentially help you get more out of the other courses.
And you can use it as a resource library, keeping in mind you also get access to the course ongoing. So when we run the course again, you're in that course again. So you get that support. If you do it at the premium level, then you can, for example, let's say I don't remember offhand which courses you're in, but let's say you're in, the what, why, how course, and you're in the contact course, and you're doing the content kind of simultaneously. You'll find that they complement each other very well. But let's say in a week you want to ride, one of the what, why, how exercises and one of the contact exercises and submit those to hot seats. You can do that, and then you get feedback from both perspectives. And of course, we're not going to give you conflicting feedback, right? So it's all going to help support your goal. If that works for you. What I don't want is for you to overstretch yourself and then give up and get frustrated and not do anything. I would rather you, if you join the other course, know that you might not do everything right now in the course, and that's okay. Give yourself permission to pick and choose. That's the path to success when you take these courses.
So perhaps we're saying the looms are excellent. They really help develop a person's eye as to how horses and riders move.
Yeah. And you can watch them over and over. That's the cool thing about the looms. I mean, you can watch, the hot seats are always recorded, so you can watch those as many times as you want, but they often end up 2 hours, sometimes more. And so you don't necessarily have a block of time of 2 hours to sit down and watch something, but you have 5 minutes or 10 minutes to watch a little Loom video, and it's easy to fit those in.
Maria says, thank you for a very inspiring challenge and for all the time you have put into it. Circumstances don't allow me to join the upcoming course, but hopefully next time.
I understand.
And Janet Henderson says, thanks so much for the challenge. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. Really looking forward to the course.
Wonderful. Welcome to the course.
Yeah. The Tuya Nora Auto says, this will be fun. I'll do course with all my saddles to test how they affect my seat when doing the exercise. That's a good idea.
Yeah, and share it all with us. Yeah,
exactly. Naomi says, looking forward to my daily dose of Ritter Revelations next week. Frost says, using the information from these courses today, I improved my dressage score by 4%. Thank you, Thomas, Shannon, Catherine. That's awesome. Congratulations. That's pretty good.
Awesome.
4%.
Good job. Good you.
Yeah.
Wow. That's
awesome.
really cool. That's significant.
I know. It's nice when the judges see it too.
Yeah.
The horse is improving.
Yeah. It is.
Very good.
It's nice to get that validation. Huh?
Yeah.
Of course, I'm sure you already know it's better, you know,
Yeah,
but
it feels
when you
better,
see it in that score, that's kind of cool. Yeah. I should also mention that the first week of the course is next week, and it's like an introductory week where we have a special workbook like we've had for this challenge. We had a challenge workbook, but in the course, we have a special workbook just for the course. And in this first week, we're talking a lot about how contact is a process. It's not just you have it or you don't, and you don't arrive. Right? It's like you becoming a good writer. You don't just arrive and go, well, there we go. I'm a good writer. Might as well quit. Stop here. It's a process. You're constantly working on polishing it and getting it better, and how to approach that as a process, and how to approach your writing too as a process. We're going to go into the mindset a little bit in that first week. So I'm looking forward to that. That's a new edition that we're doing this time around. Sandy's actually doing some of this on the mindset. She's going to do a mindset training. Catherine will be there next week, and we're going to all talk about all of this. So I'm really jazzed.
Yeah. So Lydia was saying, I'm absolutely thrilled. The judge also commented about the improvement. That's so nice.
That's so really nice cool.
When the judges know you and they see the improvement.
The awesome job.
Can comment on that. That's awesome.
That's really cool.
Yeah. Very good.
I'm happy for you.
Yeah, that's very good.
Yeah. So I guess one other thing I could mention that I didn't about the course is we've structured in, so there are breaks within the course, so that it's one module a week, but it's not 1 week after another, after another, after another, after another, and then you build up, and then pretty soon you get behind because life happens. I know. So we have a couple of weeks, and then we have an assimilation week, and then we have a couple more weeks, and then we have an assimilation week, and then in the middle of the course we actually have 2 weeks of break. So it's 2 weeks assimilation. We still have the hot seats and the Q&As going on during that time. And of course, support and the feedback and the Facebook group and the Loom videos, that's all still ongoing. But we're not pushing out new content in the new modules. So you have a chance of hopefully catching up and assimilating it, just taking the exercises that you've learned at that point and reworking them, perhaps going back through and writing them again and seeing how the earlier exercises have improved now after you've done the subsequent exercises. And that's really cool to be able to see that assimilation and work that assimilation. So we have that worked into the course, and then we have, I think Sarah's working on maybe a few other cool features. So we'll see how that goes. We're working behind the scenes. So yeah, it'll be fun. And I guess we can, if we have no more questions.
Yeah, I think, yeah, it's been 2.5 hours. We should.
Leanne Swan says, I'm doing the Feldenkrais course as I feel so much depends on my relaxation, strength, and position. I would love to do another course with you, but need to absorb all this first. Sure,
Yeah,
sure.
no
Yeah,
problem.
do Feldenkrais. Feldenkrais's a little 30-day course. And there's each one, there's 3 of them right now. And there's a 4th one in the works, but yeah, Catherine, we're waiting for her arm to heal completely. She broke it. So yeah. So yeah, there will be a Feldenkrais 4 coming in another, I don't know, month or so. So that's it. Let's wrap it up. Thank you,
Yes.
everybody.
Thank you for
And
participating.
gosh, we have only 21 people still here live. The final,
Hardcore, I
the
know.
final hardcore survivors. You guys are awesome. So thank you, everybody, for showing up, for making this challenge enjoyable for us as well.
Yeah.
You know, I really love this interaction, and yeah, watching the progress too. It was really cool to see how so many of you improved over the course of the challenge. And yeah,
It's great to see. Yeah.
that's really, really cool. And so whether you join us in the contact course or not, starting next week, we will see you again. Yeah, in other live trainings and another challenge, some YouTube videos. You'll see us, we won't see you, but yeah, we'll see you there. Bye.
Thank you.